Okay, last but not least, I'm very pleased to introduce Armando Gonzalez, RavenPack CEO. Armando is going to walk through our latest flagship product, everything that we've been speaking about tonight, both from the visual platform and also the analytics that we've been discussing. Armando will also talk about where we are today and the vision of the company, where we're going tomorrow. Please welcome Armando Gonzalez.
Thank you, Mark. Let me start off by showing you a quick video that I think highlights what RavenPack is all about.
We all strive to make informed decisions, but we are exposed to so much information so quickly that we struggle to make sense of it. Information moves faster than ever, and we are at a point where it's impossible to keep up with the details without losing track of the big picture. There is a better way. RavenPack takes on the heavy lifting, analyzing thousands of sources of information in the blink of an eye. From investing and trading, risk management and compliance, to competitive intelligence, we find what you need to know, identify the things you need to watch, and the topics driving your decisions. Our big data platform delivers analytics you can easily download and incorporate into your own applications. Fuel your ideas with our powerful visualization tools. Leverage our unique information advantage and focus on what truly matters. This is decision-making evolved. This is RavenPack.
So for us, really, decision-making evolved is a theme that we try to illustrate in everything that we do. And we've focused on a few things that have really changed the game. Peter was kind enough to touch base on some of these points earlier. I'm going to give you a little bit more color of what we've done and why we think it's important. And then I'm going to show you a demo of the platform itself. And then finally discuss something new that not a lot of people know we do and you might find interesting. But let's start off with what's new. So for starters, we became better at analyzing documents. And one of the challenges that we faced before was the computing capacity to take a long document, let's say an SEC filing or a very long research report, say 150 pages, and process the document at the exact same throughput as we could process a news story, like a news flash. So our clients don't want things to backlog. They want everything exactly at the time that it's published. And we couldn't analyze a long document at the same amount of time that we could analyze a short story. Now we can. So it doesn't matter whether the story is 200 pages long, 500 pages long. We have the ability to use the cloud and run different algorithms in parallel and process any amount of content passing through our system in less than 200 milliseconds. And in doing so, we can analyze every single aspect of the document. So whether it's the headline or the first sentence or the last sentence in a 300-page filing, we can detect events, layoffs, earnings announcements, fundamental announcements that company makes, or speeches that are given by central bankers and the sentiment that they express in paragraph 22. Right? That's what we call full document event detection. As we detect more of these events, we generate more data. And in generating more data, we need to help you filter out the noise. So we created this event relevance score that ranks where each and every one of these events are detected. And Peter alluded to the ability of detecting events and headlines and finding that those tend to be more impactful on stocks, for example, than events that are detected in the 20th or 30th paragraph. Well, with the event relevance score, we can consolidate all of the different references of the same event, irrespective of where they are in the document, and then we concatenate them into one single record that tells you this is the most representative event about this M&A issue concerning company A and company B, and then we score it so that you can focus on that specific event being the most relevant versus those that are not. So this event relevance scoring technique is actually quite powerful when it comes to reducing noise. Temporal analytics are exciting because it takes us into a space where we can now tell you when things happen. It is not the same thing announcing a product today than announcing it in the next 5 years. Right? So we can tell when things happen, and we can also extract temporal properties. If it's an earnings announcement, we want to know exactly what fiscal year, and we want to know exactly from what quarter. And depending on when that happens, it might have an impact. If their guidance, for example, is for the next quarter, we might interpret that company's guidance differently than their guidance for the rest of the year. And those temporal properties are now extracted by our system and delivered to you as part of a field in our textual extraction system. So now you can effectively tease out temporal data in a machine-readable way, and you can plug those data points as part of the way you interpret events. And then finally, we added new premium sources, relationships with providers like Alliance News that focus on LEC-listed stocks, providers like Benzinga that focus on small and mid-cap companies in the US, and we've added hundreds of websites, hundreds of blogs. We now exceed 19,000 sources of content. So there's a lot of premium content that you can use, which we found adds value when you generate signals. The next thing we did is we actually helped, because this thing was growing so fast, right? There were so many different data points with the new technology being able to extract more information from the same news stories that we had. We felt that it was way too much for our clients to download, so we started curating aspects of that data, turned it into mini data sets. And we did so thematically. We said this data is about crude oil, this data is about US stocks, or this data set is about global macro. And in doing so, we help our customers effectively choose quickly some data sets to get started. But at the same time, the entire corpus of our database is available to you, so you can select the data you want when you want. And more importantly, you have the ability to define your own filters, define the data that you need. But you can always rely on RavenPack's curated data sets to get quickly a sample of something that might be interesting. We've done a lot of improvements in company coverage. We now have 43,000 companies worldwide. We've included Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies as part of our detections. We cover pretty much every publicly traded commodity. We've added more government organizations as requests from clients came in. We've also added more economically relevant places, so if things happen in a small town, we can tell you about it. That might affect the production of a specific commodity and you want to know. We added products where we now detect over 1,200 major products, automobiles, aircrafts, computer games, mobile phones, you name it. And this will simply grow and grow as clients demand more products. We added people. We have major politicians, CEOs, basically key business and political figures, over 7,000 so far, and it continues to grow every day. We have a team of about 20 people that can take in requests from customers and keep adding to the database so that everything that we detect is a named entity and it's uniquely identified with a code. And we do all of the disambiguation to determine if you're looking for John Smith, who's the CEO of company X, we make sure that detections of John Smith are pertinent to that company only and not some other John Smith, which would be a common name, right? So a lot of disambiguation takes place, a lot of work put into detecting people with high precision. And then finally, we did teams. We thought it would be cool to pick sports teams. We did the Premier League, the NFL. So if there's ever an event or something about any of major sports teams, we can tell you. You might be guessing or thinking, where is this going? Maybe online betting could be interesting, who knows? But this is a bit of a pet project for us to see if we could do it, and we could. And we'll start to grow our database with more things that people want and find interesting. The next thing is really the way we deliver data. So that's changed dramatically. We've been running our servers in New Jersey, here in London, so that clients could basically take our data from our APIs. We found that wasn't enough, and we were behind the curve. So we started about 2-3 years ago adopting the cloud. And we took effectively Amazon Web Services as the main infrastructure in order to be able to quickly craft a data set for you. So for example, if you go to our system, you can define a bunch of filters, and you can set the date ranges that you want information for, let's say 100 companies or 200 politicians, and you can create your own data set, and in a matter of milliseconds, we'll get your query processed, and in a matter of seconds or minutes, a full data set will be delivered to you. Right? So this is the power of the cloud in order to help you create data sets and deliver them very fast. And of course, we have web APIs where you can easily extract and filter the data programmatically. So you can plug that into a production system, and we have low latency delivery as we used to. So it makes it very fast and compatible with high frequency as well as intraday trading and investing. A major innovation for us, and this is just the beginning, visualization. We've been covering the quant market for the last 14 years. We're very well known within quants, but we're not very well known in discretionary or fundamental investing. And the reason for that is most of our clients are scientists and they want data. We deliver the data to them, they plug it into their model, and they decide or make decisions programmatically or systematically. Most of the world of finance isn't systematic yet when it comes to making decisions. And we found visualization could be a good way to deliver our insights to a more fundamental investor. So I'm going to show you a little bit of what we've done so far, leveraging some of the business intelligence dashboard environments that most people use, but crafting it for RavenPack data so it's easier to extract insights from it. Now let me show you a quick demo of what this platform looks like. And I think what's important is that the idea is we will be able to sort of show some of the aspects where RavenPack is, I think, made significant progress in, right? Let me show you, let me just start this now. So when you think about RavenPack, before we were just a corporate site, now we've got our own sort of public site designed to help clients immediately log in. So if you want a trial of our product, we can get you a login credential. You log into the website and you're able to pick from any one of our curated data sets. As I spoke about, we have some featured data sets, whether it's on the North Korean crisis or focusing purely on bad news affecting companies. You can pick and choose from any of these curated data sets, which again, they're simply subsets of over 2 billion records that we've generated from more than 1 billion documents that we store inside the RavenPack environment. And these are all broken down by categories. Right? So in finance, we have specific themes like ESG, or we focus on commodities or looking at corporate credit. We also focus on specific portfolios of companies like European Top 600 or news specifically about dividends and extracting companies that are reporting dividends. These are kind of neat things or ways to do it. I can pick, for example, the UK Top 100, which is our equivalent of the FTSE 100. And this is a visual representation of the sentiment on these 100 stocks. This is effectively a tree map where I'm drilling down and showing you the themes that are affecting BP. And here BP is detected 100% relevant with an event about earnings. These are all the themes around that company that you can drill down to. These are the companies that predominate. So the color is essentially the sentiment. Green is positive, red is negative. The size of the rectangles is the amount of buzz or information there is. Here you can drill down into the companies and look at the individual stories. This is what we call the newsfeed widget. And this is a sentiment representation compared to price, which again, you can download if you would like to manipulate it in Excel, for example. But more importantly, everything is available here, and you can recreate it. Right? So this is curated for you, but you can do it yourself. This is what we call the dataset builder. And in the dataset builder, you pick the filters, whether it's sentiment, or defining sources that you want, or the entities that you need. I'm just going to name my data set here. So this will be my portfolio. And I can manually type in some companies so that, for example, BP is of my interest, Barclays is of my interest, and the system will auto-suggest companies that are in our database. You could even type CEDLs and QSIPs or security identifiers, and it will suggest companies that we consider are related. So as you add companies manually, that's one way, but more interestingly, you can add a list. So if you already have a list of tickers or a list of CEDLs or QSIPs companies that you want to add, you can import that and the system will automatically map it to the so-called RavenPack unique ID. And this ID is point-in-time sensitive, so it doesn't change over time. So once you add all your entities, you can then define some filters. So if I only want events, and I only want events that are highly relevant, so let's say greater than 70%, then I just set my filter there. If I only want records that have sentiment, so but not equal to 0, meaning that it's not neutral, I only want positive and negative, I can do so. And then I can save my data set with my filters. I can create immediately a visualization selecting a couple of widgets like the newsfeed and the tree map. Those get automatically added onto a canvas or a dashboard, and then you can resize your widgets and put them in the order that you see fit, in which case you end up with what we call a dashboard or an intelligence report. And this highlights effectively the 100 stocks that we added. These are the themes affecting those stocks at any particular point in time. This is all the news around each and every one of the names, and it's updated in real time. And you can drill down into the individual companies, look at the sentiment, look at the individual events behind the sentiment. You can also change the views and look at individual events by topic. So these are companies that are experiencing stock price losses. Or you can change the view in our settings to, this was past month, but go past week or past day. That's another option. You can also set the view, what we call the drill down mechanism. And here you can change from looking at it from an event perspective into an entity perspective. Right? And you can switch back very easily. Everything that you see here is powered by the data that you can subscribe to. So effectively, taking this data and downloading it is simply a couple of clicks away. Here, we show you a sample of all the fields that are powering that visualization. These are all the known RavenPack fields. The entity name, for example, the relevance scores that we detect, the way we classify it based on topics and themes. We also tell you whether it's a fact or it's an opinion. We tell you, show you the actual event text that we extracted once we detected the event. And then we have a bunch of sentiment techniques, so one size does not fit all. So you can pick and choose from expert-based systems or other classifiers. And you can even see the headlines behind the stories. So once you know what you want, you select the format. We have Excel or CSV. And then you basically define the data set that you want for the period of time that you needed it. And then you say generate file. And once the file is ready, you get an email alerting you that your file is completed. It could be as large as 10 gigs. In this case, it's only 2 megs. And my file was ready. I can also check the status from the app. As soon as the file is ready, I'm able to download that, and I can open the data in Excel, for example. Right. So it's fully transparent. What powers the visualization tools is available for you to download, and we have 17 years worth of this data. A millisecond time-stamped, down to the individual match or mentioned of each and every entity on every single document that we track. So it's quite a powerful data set. And now that we can make it available swiftly and quickly, you're able to take advantage of it in ways that we perhaps haven't even thought about. And although most of our clients are focused on finance and investing, we're also starting to see surveillance and compliance as a key application for this. And we're also seeing that risk management is picking it up as ways in which they can create new risk factors. Right? Now that's kind of in a nutshell the RavenPack platform. I mentioned that we're doing something new, and we consider this a huge innovation. Most of our banking clients and hedge fund clients have been asking us to open up the technology and let them use our engine to analyze their own content. And we have certain clients that have amassed billions of documents or billions of pages of research reports, investment notes, legal documents, chats, emails, you name it. And they believe, or at least they expect, that there is value in mining their internal content. However, they lack the technology or the tools to be able to dig deep into each and every document and try to figure out whether there's a relationship with a trade that they made or a relationship between trades that are being made by individuals in Asia or in the US. And again, there's no real content sharing and no content strategy or content analysis strategy, and we're providing that for our customers now. Now, what this means is that a client can rent our engine to analyze things like emails. They can run every single email, every textual email, every attachment, whether it's a PDF or a Word document or an Excel file, and we can use the RavenPack engine to detect all of the different entities that are mentioned in those documents. We can score each and every mention for sentiment, for relevance, for novelty. We can map that data to public data and tell you whether your data has an edge over what's in the public domain or not, right? We can analyze in real-time chat messages. So if you're sharing information between traders or you're sharing information within the organization and you want to see trends or patterns that are emerging as part of the conversation that is happening right now inside a bank, you can do so with RavenPack. We can take in, as I said, any textual document. So if there's a repository of content that is living inside a bank or an institution, we can go through that repository in literally hours. Right? This is a huge innovation. Taking the cloud and saying, okay, we've got 1 billion documents that we need to process. When do you need them by? We need them within the hour. We basically throw out or start off these so-called worker computers, worker algorithms that scale through Amazon Web Services and start computing each and every document in parallel. Right? Now, if the information is sensitive and the client cannot have this inside a fairly secure AWS system, then we can deploy the RavenPack engine on site, on-prem, and run the same type of analysis within their own cloud. Right? But the value of Amazon, at least the way we see it, is that we're able to scale very quickly, and we can analyze very large amounts of information within an hour, within a day, within a minute, depending on how quickly the client needs it. So again, these are the formats. We're also doing PDFs, which are quite neat, and those are converted into the so-called RavenPack normalized document. We have our own XML format, so if it's a PDF or a Word document or a chat or an email, it all gets transformed into a normalized RavenPack document, which is then analyzed, and then all of the analytics that we derived are consistent across every single document. Finally, I'd like to summarize with our delivery mechanisms. Specifically, we've, for the last 10 years, delivered our product in data files. That is, clients just wanted the data. So they went to a site and they can download flat files from an HTTP server or an FTP server, and that was our primary delivery mechanism. This only satisfied about 10% of the market as far as we could see it. We implemented web APIs as recently as last month, which allow you to very quickly request data sets that you filter. And this makes it easy for developers, those that want to create their own apps, in addition to end users. Here we capture about 25% of the market. We wanted to go beyond that, so we decided to build our own visualization tool, which makes it easier for practically any professional. You don't have to be a quant, you don't have to be a data scientist to be able to leverage RavenPack. And here we capture about 70% of the market. And finally, something that is coming is what we call the RavenPack search engine. Now, everything that we do, as I said, is effectively analyzing the raw data and then enriching the data and creating metadata that is not typically available. So when you make a request now through a normal search engine, you ask for keywords, right? And Google is making more progress towards named entity recognition, but we started with named entity recognition. So everything that we have is an actual entity. Everything that we have is an event as part of a taxonomy. So you can use our enriched data to run a search and find very precise results very, very quickly. So as a combination of both the enriched RavenPack data as well as the traditional keyword analysis, we're able to facilitate search engines. And this is practically applicable for anybody in the marketplace. I want to thank the RavenPack team in Marbella, Spain, which they don't only take siestas, but actually work hard and develop a tremendous product. We've got about 20 nationalities in Marbella today, engineers and AI to amazing product researchers. So I want to thank them for their hard work in putting together this product. And I also want to thank our business team in New York for bringing that market feedback and putting us in front of clients and helping us design a product that was in tune to what the market wanted. So thank you for that. And if there are any questions about the platform, I'd be happy to take them now.
I was actually thinking of one, Armando. I think it would be great for them to hear what your vision is. So you laid out a great plan for like what's going on right now. Where do you see RavenPack in the next 3 to 5 years?
Sure. I think, both big data and AI are no question shaping the way we think about data science and analysis. I'd like for RavenPack to be a pioneer in making some of these hypotheticals more practical, right? And when we talk about AI and when we talk about big data, I'd like to see RavenPack be able to show something practical to a customer and say, okay, this is big data for real. This is how we get lots and lots of sources, and this is how we compute it, and this is how we turn it into something useful. So I see us putting a lot of work into practical applications, demonstrable applications, finding use cases, and taking advantage of the cloud, which is inevitable. It's the future. Everyone's moving to the cloud, and we need to take advantage of computing power. We also need to take advantage of knowledge systems. I think AI is going to need a lot of support from us humans and defining what we want to understand rather than letting it learn on its own, as we've proven that it makes it's gone into, especially in cases where we let it train on data sets that are very limited. We found lots and lots of issues with that, where we don't understand what the output is. And I think we need to always understand what the machine is doing. So we're going to be putting a lot of work into creating more practical AI and creating systems that we can trust and understand in order to evolve decision making for our customers.
Hi, Armando. You know, we are one of the earliest adopters of your technology and fantastic development you've done. I have two questions. One is, who is your competitor in the market? Is there anybody else doing something similar? And the second question is perhaps about the latency between the time events take place and you deliver it.
Sure. In terms of competition, it's fair to say that in the data business, we compete with Reuters and Bloomberg. There's also a few smaller players that sell sentiment data and event data. But we tend to, when we deal with banks or large hedge funds, it's usually Reuters or Bloomberg. And your second question was about latency. So latency is very consistent to what we've always had. Everything that we do is sub-second. The majority of our events are processed in less than 200 milliseconds. So that's 70% of our events, or 70% of the records are processed in less than 200 milliseconds.
No, but when an event takes place, then it gets into news, and then you deliver.
And we, from the moment that gets published, we will do the analysis within 200 milliseconds. That's where we are today. Now, there's no reason why it couldn't be faster, right? But there isn't demand for it yet. And there are cases in high-frequency trading where you want expected news a little quicker. We can obviously do that in a couple of milliseconds. But when we say 200 milliseconds, that's effectively unscheduled news, unscheduled announcements, unscheduled press releases. And when we talk about scheduled, it's just a couple of milliseconds.
This is RavenPack.